I am going to let you listen to the cops themselves.
Efforts were made to try and break through that door. You say it was locked. What efforts were the officers making to try and break through either that door or another door to get inside that classroom?
None at that time. The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
You have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive in that classroom. There are lives that are at risk.
Hey,
that's not protocol, is it?
We're well aware of that.
Right, yeah. But why was this decision made not to go in and rescue these children?
Again, you know, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, you know, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was, in fact, still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject. There was 19 officers in there. In fact, there was plenty of officers to do whatever needed to be done, with one exception, is that the incident commander inside believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach at that point. That's why BORTAC was requested on the scene as soon as they were there. They executed a search, or at least a dynamic entry, and went in. And of course, that was not till 12. That was not till 12:57. Yeah. With the benefit of hindsight. Stand by. Hey.
Dude, look at this shit. Okay, that's what you get. I mean, this is the most understandable reaction. This is the most understandable reaction. Children died. 19 cops are waiting outside that fucking room, waiting for a fucking key to enter. That's the latest evidence that came out. Remember, first it was 2 cops shot at the guy after, and he shot back for 12 fucking minutes. Okay, there was a shootout outside the school for 12 minutes. You know, striking some of the officers. Then we found out that he didn't even have a fucking bulletproof vest on, the shooter. Then we found out that the 2 officers weren't even shot that badly. Like, they were just shot at. They didn't have any serious injuries. They were just like scuffed knees. Then we found out there weren't 2 fucking officers there. There was just like the school officer. What is it called? The fucking resource officer that was there. Okay. Then we found out he wasn't there either, apparently. They just lied. They lied for the past 2 days as they tried to... They have tried to massage the narrative as best as they can. And this is the best thing that they could come up with. And it's going to get worse. Knowing what I know about how cops operate, it's going to get worse, boys. Get fucking buckle up. Get ready. Like, what we are going to find out if we ever do. I mean, there was a lot of fucking phone camera footage from the scene, so there will probably be more information that comes out. There will be more.
Stand by. Hey, stand by, right? I got it. Okay. Hey, from the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know...
Oops, my bad, brother.
We believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can. Hey, when there's an active shooter, the rules change. It's no longer, okay... It's no longer a barricaded subject. We don't have time. You don't worry about outer perimeters. And by the way, Texas embraces active shooter training, active shooter certification, and that
dog. Why the fuck would anyone get active shooter training from your fucking hot dog skinned potato sack fat fucking cops that literally failed to do the fucking active shooting drills that they're going to teach others? Why in the ever-loving fuck would anybody be like, oh yeah, I can't wait to give the police department more money so they can teach me active shooter training? Oh, we encourage active shooter training, dude. It's like, that's what that's what was happening, dude. Even the fucking conservatives are like, nah, This is too much. This is too much. Even conservatives are like, nope, not it. This is not it. There's fucking cops on, like, ex-cops that literally do propaganda for the boot on a daily basis, turning around and being like, yeah, no, this is unacceptable. You're right.
That doctrine requires officers, we don't care what agency you're from, you don't have to have a leader on the scene. Every officer lines up, stacks up, goes and finds where those rounds are being fired at and keeps shooting until the subject is dead, period.
7 words that will forever haunt the community of Uvalde, Texas. Of course, it was the wrong decision. Of course, it was the wrong decision. That from Corporal Stephen McGraw, the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, right there in a 40-plus minute news conference in which he...
Bro, they should have said, like, hey, dude, if you wanted to apprehend the shooter, you should have talked about CRT. You know, these kindergartners were learning about CRT from a queer teacher or something. Maybe that would have fucking got them to do the right thing in the moment. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck. Holy shit. Look alive, boys. We got real dangerous things happening, okay?
To his credit, laid out the haunting timeline of what happened at the Robb Elementary School. He said the shooter went in. He said that police followed him in soon after. There were 911 calls, including from young children inside the classroom, saying there...
That's the worst fucking, like, that's the most disgusting thing, by the way. They literally said, okay, we're going to go through all of the bits and pieces of his you know, like, all the bits and pieces of, like, what he talked about, okay? But it is fucking disgusting that they literally said, oh, yeah, we thought that they were, at a certain point, they were like, we thought that there was no one there. We thought that the kids were all dead already. That's really interesting because that contradicts, you know, the timeline of the 9/11 calls. Student calls to 911 at 12:03. One of the students whispers she's in room 112. 12:10 said multiple dead. 12:13 called again. 12:16 says 8 to 9 students are alive. 12:19 student calls from room 111. 12:21 3 shots heard on the call. 12:36 another 911 call. 12:43 asks for police. 12:47 asks for police. They left them in there and they fucking knew. They left them in there and they fucking knew that they were there, okay? A really good timeline that's super detailed. Timeline explained by Texas police. 11:27 exterior door propped open by teacher. 11:28 shooter crashes car in a ditch. Teacher runs into her room to grab a phone, goes back out the door to call 911. 11:28 2 males at funeral home approach shooter after crash. They get shot at. One of them fell. 11:30 911 call from teacher. There's a crash and a man with a gun. 11:31 shooter reaches last row of vehicles in the school parking lot. 11:31 shooter begins to shoot at the school windows. Several cop cars arrive at the crash car site. Confirms resource officer for the school was not on campus at this time. Stated that he heard the call and drove to the school. Was under 1 minute away and drives right by the shooter at the same time as the shooter is firing into school windows. 11:32 more shots fired at the school. At least 100 rounds have been fired at the school from outside. 11:33 3 cops enter the school through the front door. 11:35 3 cops enter the school from the front door. 4 more cops follow them. 7 total. 2 cops received grazing wounds through the closed classroom door. Okay? Hold on. That's the 2 cops that received grazing wounds. I guess the timeline was like jumbled up. 11:37 more rounds fired, not specified who's shooting. 11:38 more rounds fired, not specified who's shooting. 11:40 more rounds fired. 11:44 more rounds fired. 11:51 more officers arrive. 12:03 more officers arrive and go into the school. There are now 19 officers in the hallway outside of the classroom. 12:03 child in the classroom calls 911. Call lasts 1 minute and 22 seconds. 12:10 child calls back to 911, tells them that multiple people are dead in her classroom. 12:13, child calls back to 911. 12:15, Bortak arrives. 12:16, child calls back to 911, says there are 8 to 9 students alive in her classroom. At this point, like the Bortak arriving is at almost approximately 1 hour later. Not 1 hour later, but like 40 minutes later at this point. Cops are already inside at this point. Child calls back to 911, says there are 8 to 9 students alive. Different child calls into 911, hangs up when another student tells her to. 12:21. Child calls back to 911. You can hear the shots in the background of the call. 12:21. Shooter shoots again and is believed to be at the door of the classroom. Cops move down the hallway towards it. 12:36. Child calls back to 911. Operator asks her to stay on the call and stay quiet. 12:43. Child on with 911. Asks the operator to please send in the police now. 12:46. Child on 911 says she can hear the police next door. 12:47. Child on 911 asks the operator to please send in the police now again. 12:50. Breached the door with the keys from the janitor as they couldn't breach them themselves as they were locked. 12:50. The shooter is killed. Shooter had brought 58 total magazines with 1,657 rounds that he had purchased. However, there's conflicting testimony on that as well because Border Patrol agents arrived far earlier than disclosed, but the Uvalde police initially kept them from entering the school, 2 officials said. Now, there are different political interests playing a role in the way that this is being covered right now. Okay? So it's hard to figure out or parse through exactly what the reality, exactly what happened. Okay? Officials described harrowing series of 9/11 calls, including some of the children from Robb Elementary. 78 minutes elapsed before police, believing there were no kids at risk, finally confronted the gunman, officials say. In Uvalde, Texas, some of the worst fears about the police response to the school shooting rampage were confirmed on Friday when state law enforcement officials acknowledged that more than an hour lapsed after the shooting began as the police waited to enter the classroom where the students were trapped inside. In an emotional and at times tense news conference, Stephen C. McGraw, the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, gave the most detailed accounting of the shooting yet, diverging in substantial points from the original timeline given by officials. Most of the time, the gunman was at the school, Mr. McGraw explained. He was inside the classrooms where nearly all the killing took place, while as many as 19 police officers waited outside in the school hallway. Just want to point out that 19 police officers could not apprehend this dude, and they had to wait for a key. Meanwhile, 19 children were being slaughtered. So it would have been far preferable if the 19 cops died instead of the 19 children. I think that's not, a ridiculous thing to say in this circumstance. Like, that is their job. Their job is to literally put their lives on the line to save children. Okay? Straight up. What map of how close they are? Yeah, no, the Uvalde Police Department is like very close, yes, to the elementary school. Given the fact that 19 fully armed and equipped police were too afraid to take on one team with an AR-15 show that we should ban AR-15 and similar weapons? And it shows me a lot of things. But a world in which, like, fucking, for example, firefighters, instead of fucking going into a fire and, like, saving lives, were busy, sitting outside with their fucking, their phones out, Snapchatting, would be unacceptable. You'd be like, that's crazy. Can you imagine, like, firefighters being like, nah, sorry, dude. Sorry, too big of a fire for me. I think we're just gonna dial it back on this one. Not worth it, I think. Well, and we'll just make a perimeter. Firefighters make perimeters as well. They literally don't allow people to go into the fire. That is a thing that firefighters do. Can you imagine in that situation, like firefighters being like, shit, dude, we just don't have a key. Just can't. We can't breach. Sorry. We just can't do it. Oops. Liz Wheeler. This is a Republican, dude. Absent father, mother addicted to drugs, sent him to live with grandmother, loner, isolated by lockdowns, aggressive, fights in school, self-harm, violent video games, unrestricted internet access, no friends, just online chats, no church. Broken families are the problem, not guns. I mean, dude, don't show me like broken humans like this, okay? Gonna be a lib take by me, but there are definitely circumstances where firefighters don't put themselves in danger to rescue people from a burning building. Yeah, also remember that like that is a natural disaster, as close as a natural disaster you can get, versus this is not. You're dealing with a human being. And in the overwhelming majority of circumstances, they are still 1000% putting their body in harm's way all the time, nonstop. It's out of the question. Like, it's not even a thing. Like, what you're describing is when there's a lack of structural integrity and it's completely done. Like, the building is impossible to fucking go into. You're describing a totally different circumstance where no one is surviving that because they've already been asphyxiated. Like there's no oxygen in there. And also the structure is slated to fucking fall. Making a comparison in that circumstance to like 19 fucking cops failing to apprehend one fucking teenager with an AR-15 is a psychotic one. I mean, maybe you haven't really thought about a fire. I don't know. My dad's a firefighter. He's done crazy things just to save a cat, let alone a baby. Yeah. I'm a middle school teacher in an urban area where we have this year alone, we had at least one gun brought in and discharged in my building. I agree with the vast majority it takes, but you have to understand two issues that I think you are understandably not looking at both sides of teachers versus parents. You need cops outside preventing parents from coming in, or they may also get shot, reveal student locations. Yeah, I wouldn't have had a problem with the fucking cops actually, not letting parents in. Well, like I said, firefighters also establish perimeter all the time to stop, further people from dying in that situation. But the only reason why I have an issue with the cops stopping stopping the parents is because they themselves were not putting their fucking bodies on the line. Do you understand? If they did a better job and if they were like, hey, we actually have this handled, don't worry. And, parents didn't have to fucking listen to their children get slaughtered by some fucking freak inside with gunshots over the course of a fucking hour, then this would be an entirely different conversation to have. Look at how many cops with plate carriers, helmets, and AR-15s they're holding up the parents, but didn't go into the building. I mean, dude, this is it. Like, you can't turn back from this, dude. You can't look at a fucking tased parent on the ground with other parents being apprehended and be like, yeah, man, this is the appropriate thing that they did, I think, in this circumstance. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, establishing a perimeter is understandable, but like, if you're not fucking throwing your life on the line, if you're not throwing bodies at the problem, quite literally, and the only bodies that you're throwing at the problem are the bodies of fucking little children and teachers, then, you're fucked. A firefighter is thought to always prioritize themselves over victims because a fire is completely different from a psycho with a gun, but every time a firefighter enters a building, he puts his life at risk. They do that a lot, by the way. I used to be a firefighter, so if firefighters put their lives at risk constantly, why can't cops do it just once? Especially when it's 100 to 1 firefighters work in pairs, police work in gangs. It's absolutely correct across the board. Cops did exactly what they were told to do and just said, oopsies, made the wrong choice. Sadly, great example of the police system being inherently broken. I agree with you.